Are you a supplier to the UK poultry sector? Poultry Network's new supplier directory is launching to help farmers and producers find the companies they need, quickly and easily. The online directory goes live on June 30th, giving suppliers a searchable year-round profile, while the printed 2026/27 edition will be published at the beginning of September and posted directly to more than 2,000 UK poultry farms. For bookings made in June, suppliers can secure inclusion in the printed version for just £495. It's a simple way to put your business in front of the poultry sector when they're looking for products, services and support. Visit poultry.network/business-directory to book your listing today.
Hello, welcome to another episode from the Poultry Network Podcast. My name's Tom Willings.
And I'm Tom Woolman.
Good to see you again. You well?
Yeah, I am very well.
I thought today we were going to talk about heat stress, but instead we're talking about something completely different. And we'll get to that in a moment. We'll get to that. But what's your week held? What have you been doing?
What has it been doing? I've certainly been doing the rounds. Actually, I've been up to Carlisle, which is if you're listening to this in Carlisle, then obviously Carlisle is the centre of the universe. But for everyone else, it's a pleasant sojourn. And I have to say that when I got up there and I got out the car, it was refreshing at the fact that the temperature was probably 4 to 5 degrees cooler than it was when I first got into the car. I saw a farmer up there who's next door to a campsite that he says is just growing and growing year on year. So if you're looking at where to holiday going forward, then camping in Carlisle I can certainly recommend.
Or farm diversification options, tourism, glamping, camping, fantastic. And I dare say, no, I won't go there.
What I want to know, Tom, is are you watching the new series of Clarkson's Farm?
I haven't watched an episode yet, although every when you go onto a Google search or what have you, I'm bombarded with the somber news that's coming out of Diddley Squat. So no, I haven't watched any yet. You recommend it or not?
I'd certainly say I've only watched one episode so far, but I've spoken to a couple of people this week who have wholeheartely recommended it and said that it's just as good as the previous series, which I think is
good as our podcast.
Well, it's not. No. But it's it's sort of on a par. I like to think of us and Clarkson's Farm as being the two premier, media vehicles when it comes to education and entertainment in the agricultural sector.
It's good. It's just different. Yeah.
There's a bit of sheep chat there. There's a bit of sheep chat on here.
What more could you ask for?
Absolutely.
Right, we should introduce our guest for today, and let's sort of preface this. This is a learning experience and an opportunity for us all. And I'm going to hold my hand up here and say that this is breaking new ground. This is an area of our extended industry that I would not have given any thought to whatsoever. But we've had guests on in recent weeks talking around vaccinations coming to the market. We thought we would bring to you a little window on the process behind bringing not just vaccines but any kind of veterinary medicine or feed additives or associated products to the market, because it turns out there's quite a lot to it. We should do a little health warning for listeners. We're going to try not to get too detailed, but at the same time talk about some stuff that hopefully you will find interesting. And then if you want to learn more about it, then at the end of this you'll know where to go to find out more. But without further ado, we're going to welcome David Petrie-Dolphin from Drayton Animal Health. He's the Technical Business Development Manager. Many might know David from his previous work at SciTech, doing a lot of testing, certainly for the laying industry. I'm sure for the broiler industry as well. But he's going to talk to us about the world of contract research organisations and the important work that they do in bringing new medications and additives to the market.
Hello, David, and welcome to the Poultry Network Podcast.
Thank you very much. That's great. Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Very good, thank you. Very good. A little bit warm today, but apart from that, all good.
Yeah, and we've ascertained in the pre-show chat that you do live under a flight path for Birmingham Airport. So
I do indeed, yeah. So occasionally there will be a plane popping out, so I apologise about the noise if anybody hears it.
So if there are any rumbles that are going on while people are playing back this podcast, they're driving along in the car, don't worry, don't readjust your speakers. It's just a little bit of aviation. People are jetting off, aren't they, on their summer holidays at the moment? But we wanted to get you in today, David, to have a chat because we've talked quite a lot about different vaccines and different evolving disease threats on this podcast coming along, and we seem to get vaccines which pop up, and you get a new vaccine and it's licensed in a different way for an existing disease or different diseases put together in new configurations, and we just wanted to learn a little bit more about the process that goes on behind the scenes in terms of getting vaccines approved, which I understand you do and you assist with in your new role. And I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about Drayton Animal Health that you work for and what sort of work they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. So we're termed as something called a CRO, which is a contract research organisation. So what we'll do the animal safety work. We're well established. We've been around for 60 years. So we've got a really, really good track record. Used to be part of ADAS, so I'm sure some of your listeners will remember ADAS back in the day. And a part of that process as well, we are fully accredited. We're Home Office approved. So we've got full authority to do this kind of work, and we are scrutinised all the way through.
Yeah. And I suppose a question that I'd be thinking is, why is there a need for a contract research organisation? Why is it that this research isn't just done by pharmaceutical companies by themselves?
It's a good question. Quite often what it can be, because if you are a contract research organisation, you've actually got a facility that you're using day in, day out. You imagine these pharmaceutical companies, they're only bringing products along every 2 or 3 years. So you can imagine they'll build a facility, they'll do the study, and then it's laying dormant could be laying dormant for 2 or 3 years afterwards. And they've got that cost of keeping it going, keeping it moving, looking after it. Whereas if they use a CRO, they can go straight to the doorstep. We're doing it day in, day out. As part of that process as well, we're well adverse to what's happening in the industry and what the regulators are asking for as well. So we know all the new regulations. We can work within those frameworks and make sure that the job we do is robust, it's there, but it saves companies money as well. So they could just set it to ourselves and we can start on that work.
And it's quite a practical process, isn't it? We're talking about trialling, whether it's feed additives or medications or equivalent products for animals on animals, but we're not talking about a laboratory setting here. This is not lipstick on beagles, as we said in the pre-chat. This looks and feels like a farm. Just describe the actual working environment and the livestock.
Absolutely. I mean, it is, as you said there, it's definitely not lipstick on beagles. It looks like a farm. When you get there, it looks like a farm. It's very, very secure, fully secured up with fences and gates and everything. But the key is when you go in there, it does look like a farm. But the work that goes on in there is fundamental to vaccine research.
And it takes quite a long time to go through the I guess highly regulated process.
Yes.
Is the nature of the work and the almost real life like environment, is that part and parcel as to why it takes so long, or simply put, just why does it take the length of time it does to get new products onto the market?
Okay. The key to it is it's a multi-stage process. So what it does, we're looking at the molecules first, where you try and see where the target is and how it interacts with the molecule, and also as part of that you're moving forward, so you have to then move into testing on the animal side. And it is a case of it's a very bespoke project that happens, and you have to make sure the interaction's there. Linked on with that, you have to do your toxicology studies as well, and also your absorptions. They call it an ADME study, where it establishes the withdrawal period for the animals. So for example, when you look at your medication, it says what the dose rate is, and it says what the withdrawal period is before it goes into the food chain. Those studies all form part of a dossier that pulls together to be able to get approval.
And approval from who exactly? Who's kind of big brother making sure that you're getting through all of these sort of stages?
Absolutely. Well, that'll be the European Medicines Agency or the Veterinary Medicines Directorate. So it is those bodies as well. Also, as part of any study that's carried out as a CRO, particularly in the UK, it's under Home Office licence as well. So the Home Office can come at any point. They can come and inspect, they can come and look. As part of that process as well, everything's audited by third-party auditors as well to make sure that the data is robust, it's repeatable, it's reproducible, and it can stand up to scrutiny.
I'm going to ask a little bit of a topical question, because we are 10 years on from the Brexit referendum, and one of the points of the Brexit referendum was that we could diverge if we chose to in various kinds of regulation, but you've also referenced back to the fact that we still look to Europe when it comes to regulation of some of our medicines. Are we effectively still joined at the hip in terms of European regulation? Is there anything that the UK does differently now that it wouldn't have done beforehand?
To a large degree. I mean, in reality, geographically, we're still connected. We're still connected to Europe. You've got a little bit of sea in the middle, but in reality, you're in a position where work can be carried out in the UK that's admissible in Europe, and products are used across Europe. So it is a two-way street.
And are we doing testing here that would allow us to, or allow vaccines to be used in other parts of the world outside of Europe as well? Yeah.
Well, in Europe, quite often, sometimes it's got to go for approval in different geographical regions as well. So you can say UK and Europe is one chunk, whereas you could look at South America, you could look at China, you could look at the Far East. They'll all be managed under separate authorities, so they still have to go through that approval process. But they could actually present that dossier and say, is it sufficient, or do they need further work to get that licence through?
I myself had never heard of a contract research organisation before, David. Are there many businesses doing this work in the UK?
There's a few. There's not many. There's not many. You could count them on one hand. Okay. So it's quite a small niche industry, but it's a collaborative industry as well. Whereas there's some CROs which can do certain parts, others that can't do them. So it's creating that collaborative approach where everybody can help each other and form parts of studies.
And you talked about again in the warm up about the kind of highly regulated processes that you were working towards. I think GLP, or good laboratory practice, was one, and good clinical practice in veterinary was another. What do these things mean in practical terms? What kind of scrutiny is ongoing?
Essentially, it's setting a benchmark for what you're actually going to be doing, and it is a case of it's a standard that's used across the world. So it creates that equivalence across the entire globe for what people are sitting within that research. When you come in to back about scrutiny as well, it's every study is internally scrutinised by the team at a CRO as well. So as part of that role, there is when you look at animal welfare and ethics and whether it's fit or proper the study, it goes through something called an AWEB, which is an Animal Welfare Ethics Review Board, which is a team of a layperson, the scientist, a vet, and every part of a study is scrutinised beforehand to be agreed to say that is fair, that is scientifically valid, it is necessary, and it is following the ethical guidelines as well, and looks after welfare.
And I know you also talk a little bit about the 3 R's. We have talked a little bit about the 3 R's, which is replacement, reduction, and refinement. What does this actually mean for studies which are involving farm animal health?
Well, absolutely. Well, the 3 R's is fundamental to our planning as well. Our planning with our sponsors and our people. The key is with the reduction, you want to use the minimum number of animals possible, but you've still got to prove that the study is statistically viable. You can imagine in poultry, I've used a few more animals, where if you go to other species, say cows, you could reduce the number quite significantly. Whereas poultry, you need to have a good number to be able to give you that statistical power to be able to prove the data is valid and is scalable as well.
And that quite often I find when I'll be visiting farms and people are trialing new things, and they say, I've got this new bedding, I've got this new supplement, I'm trying something in this house.
Yeah.
And there's this sort of tension, isn't there, between you want to test something and make sure that it works on a commercial scale, that you can give something to a house full of chickens and you feel like you're going to get a benefit, but almost as soon as you start trying to test things commercially, you're not necessarily getting that statistical accuracy that I suppose is what you're aiming to get, aren't you, through your processes?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of that's why you have to do two stages when you're doing a whole research project. You'll do the work that's in a CRO that's highly controlled, that we can control all variables, whether it's temperature, lighting, water. We can control all of those things, and we know what's happening. Whereas the next stage on from there is going to the real world testing, where you go into farms. You
do test things in a more commercial environment.
Absolutely, that's the next stage. So you can say it's safe, it's effective, it works. It works in a controlled environment, and then you go to the real world environment as well. Because you imagine, probably from both of your experience, one farm can be totally different to another. So you need to try it in those different settings and different geographical areas to make sure that it is fit and effective. And
can I ask
also? Of course you can.
Sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Carry on.
What it is, it's a case of it proves that whole efficacy. So you can say it works in the real world. The farmer can administer it easily. That can be easily done. I mean, that's something, a product being user friendly. If it's easy to be administered, it's a bonus to the farmer as well. It makes it simple. It's less likely to go wrong as well. And the fact is, we want to prove all parts of bringing the product to market, that it's safe, effective, and it works.
Yeah. Kind of leading on from that, making sure it works. Part of that's got to be making sure it works at the margins of the level of threat that, let's talk vaccines, that they're designed to protect against, and I guess at that point you get into a discussion around animal welfare, and how is the welfare of the animals in the in the research protected, upheld? Yeah, what goes on to make sure that animal welfare is catered for?
Well, the welfare is very top. That is the very, very, very top. That's the first consideration. That any study is, it's looking at welfare. It's looking how the animals are looked after. It's minimising stress for the animals as well. So quite often when animals are coming in for a study, they'll be acclimatised as well. So they'll be acclimatised. They'll be in there for a period of time, so they get used to their new surroundings. Everything that's brand new for them, it reduces all of that stress. So when you be coming to do that research work, whether it be taking a blood sample or being to do some swabbing, the animal's used to the people around. They recognise those people around, so it minimises stress for the animal, and it minimises stress for the person doing that procedure as well.
So is it almost like a customised trial for whatever the product is that's going through the process, and depending on a perceived level of risk, then you've got more or less animals? There must be this balancing act of making sure you've got enough data that gives you robust, reliable results to go on to the next stage, but making sure you don't cause unwanted, unnecessary effects. How does that balance happen in practice?
Well, every study is unique. We start from a blank piece of paper every single time. When say a client will come to a CRO and say, we need to do a study, this is what we want to achieve, we start with a blank piece of paper and we go from that state, from first principles all the way through.
Wow. Excellent. Well, that's probably a great place to wrap it up, David. Thank you for coming in and chatting to us today.
No problem at all.
And look forward to hearing a bit more about now that I've got my ear out anyway for businesses like Drayton Animal Health. I'm sure I will be noticing them round
whoever knew that this was going on. I suppose if we thought about it, we would of course know that there was this sort of rigour behind every product that's licensed and available. But fantastic to learn so much more about it today. So again, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. No problem. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well, that was a wonderful interview, and I think I counted only counted 2 planes during the course of the interview that rumbled over. So if you didn't hear them, you're going to have to listen back again and just tune in and see if you did.
Did you learn anything?
I learned an awful lot, and I have a small insight into some of this. So I think back to when I was at university and I did my thesis and I did my dissertation, and I did a poultry research project at Harper Adams, and I had the sort of facility that David is talking about, where we had individual pens and you could do pen trials, and I suppose for a year when I was a student I had a little insight into what it actually means to do proper research, and it is an amazing world, and there are these facilities across the country which they're almost like the little unsung heroes of the march of development. Whenever stuff is pushing forward in the poultry sector, there will have been research that's going on behind it. We talk about it, don't we, with breed companies. Breed companies will talk about the selection process and how they trial things and then they select. And this is an example of the same process happening, but with veterinary medicines. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, quite courageous, I thought, of Drayton and David to kind of bring it to us and say, look, we'd love to come on, we'd love to talk about this sort of stuff, because I think my immediate reaction was, wow, these are or this kind of work is normally for strictly behind closed doors and very controlled access and information, and for that reason sort of or accentuate that awareness. So great to have an opportunity to learn who it is behind the scenes, and I know we kind of only just sort of touched on the surface. David's passion for the subject though comes through. He's only been with the team for a relatively short time, but his enthusiasm for the work that he's doing was I hope you picked it up in the interview, certainly in the let's call it the green room before we started recording. It's palpable. So I suspect that's not the last time we're going to hear from David, and I think we've all got an awful lot to learn. Perhaps not you, Tom. I'm always the idiot in the room, but I think there's still a lot more to come from that. So fascinating.
Yeah. And I suppose when I'm thinking forward at the process of approving vaccines, I think back to COVID and think about what went on with the process of approving vaccines in human health, where for a whole range of reasons, down to political pressure and getting things done and getting a vaccine out there quickly, there was a huge amount of focus and investment and innovation, I suppose you could say, when it comes to human vaccines and bringing them to market. And I think that's continued with human vaccines. When I look at the animal health sector, because of climate change and a whole load of other factors, we're going to be subjected to an evolving landscape when it comes to disease threats for all sorts of species in the UK. When you look at other stuff like blue tongue with cattle and we look at what's happening with avian influenza in the poultry sector, and I wonder how this sector will continue to innovate going forward, because I think the pressures are going to grow when it comes to disease pressures and new disease pressures, and I think that it will be an opportunity for the sector to be able to respond more quickly and more nimbly to coming up with solutions and things that will protect the health and the welfare of our animals going forward.
Well said. As ever, you always appear to suddenly know an awful lot more about the subject than you first let on. So, no, good. Well, let's call it quits for this week. As ever, everybody, thank you for joining us, and we will be back in a week's time with another guest.
Bye-bye.